we now move to the state police and make a little bit clearer what it is that we're dealing with, because most people are not accustomed to thinking of only one police force in the country. So the state police will be controlled by the crime prevention group, and that we told you that. And here's where the changes begin. As we said, there isn't anyone who would choose to catch a criminal rather than prevent the crime in the first place. Or if there is a person, he or she is a little sick, what'd they say? They said, choose. You want us to catch the criminal after he's committed the crime, or do you want us to prevent the crime? Now, anybody that has any sense at all would say prevent the crime, obviously. We don't care we care if you catch the person after he commits the crime, but let's stop the crime. Let me just give you an example. We're not going to use killing here. We're going to use robbery. You walk into your house, and the entire house is all torn. I mean, not the entire house, but the living room and the bedroom, the dresser drawer, they're all tore up. They're all opened up and everything's dumped on the floor. And the common thing that you hear all the time is that they feel they've been abused. They feel they've physically been beaten because that somebody came into their house and stole their stuff. And so what we're saying is, do you want them to steal their stuff and then go out there and have the really good cops catch the crook? Or would you like the crime prevention people to prevent the robbery in the first place? Now, there isn't anybody that's normal anyway who wouldn't take the crime prevention over the catching of the criminal. Therefore, we have suggested that this group that works to prevent crime in the first place, and suggested that they be in charge and put that group in charge of the state police. That way the prevention of the crime becomes a priority. And see, they're always talking about the priority. You have to see the criminal system, the police system as it is now. What is the priority? The priority is to catch the criminal. See? So, everything is done to make sure they catch the criminal. They don't really do a very good job of prioritizing, because there's all these stupid police chases and automobiles, but that's coming down the line. So what we have the crime prevention group, and they sit there and say, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to make sure the crime doesn't happen in the first place. Who's robbing the house? Why are they robbing the house? In other words, you got any other robberies in the area? And then you find out who it is and find out what they did and find out how to prevent it. You might have alarm system on every house. You might have, watch groups in the neighborhood. They're probably the best way to prevent the crime. You have people that know when something isn't right. In your neighborhood, there's always somebody saying, let me give you an example. I have a neighbor downstairs that had a pit bull. That pit bull never barked. I mean, that pit bull just never barked. It just was a really, really nice dog. One day I heard him barking and barking and barking, and I said, there's something wrong. And I went to check and found out it was another neighbor across the alley who had a pit bull that sounded just like the one downstairs. So, okay, I checked. The point is that I checked, and that's the way, your neighborhood is. There are people that want to keep the neighborhood safe, and there might be what you call a busybody, elderly lady that hasn't got a whole lot other to do, who is keeping an eye on things. Great. I mean, you can say what you want, but that if she calls a crime prevention group, they're going to come and see what's going on. That's what you want. So you have the crime prevention group, and they have a priority of preventing crime, and they have a second priority of keeping the continuity of action and investigation we have suggested before. They We don't have the city police anymore. We don't have constables. We don't have the DNR, the sheriff's office. We don't have the FBI and the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I don't think so. State police. Why do we need a Federal Bureau of Investigation? I'll tell you one of the reasons why. They're big. They're big enough to maybe take on the mafia. They're also big enough to stop you from realizing that the overcharger is in their being paid to them. You understand what we're saying? The CIA is not necessary because we have Border Patrol. We don't have anybody CIA on anymore. What we have is we have the state police crime prevention unit talking to another country if there's anything going on in another country we need to know. Crime prevention is number one. We need only one unit to enforce the laws of this country, and that is the new state police. Since they will be under the control of the crime prevention group, they'll be trying to prevent any crime as the first priority. That's what we said. They'll be composed of a different set of people doing a different sort of work. They're not going to be 350-pound, tough, mean-looking cops because we don't need that. We need that in the SWAT segment of the state police, but we sure don't need it for somebody that's investigating a crime. You need somebody, not that they're out. You understand? There is no preset determination. 350-pound tough guy can do just as well at examining a crime scene as anybody else. But the point is that they don't hire just them. You might hire an 80-year-old woman. You might hire a 70-year-old man. I mean, you understand what we're saying? We want the job done. We want to prevent it. Who can prevent it? You got a person that sits in a rocking chair and says that I can see the wacko guy or woman. I can see that we're going to have a crime over here where I'm a psychic. Don't blow them away. Now you have the crime prevention group. When you have the group, if you have one of those in the group, good. We said if the janitor has a theory, listen to him. We're not in the business of hierarchy. We're in the business of keeping crimes from happening. So you have different set of people doing different sorts of things, and there's no preconceived idea who they have to be or what they have to look like. You're going to get rid of the concept that all cops are 300-pound tough. Get rid of that because it's not productive. We need them in the SWAT team. We need, in the SWAT team, you have to have tremendous fear by the criminal. In the SWAT team, you have to have people that look like they can take you out in a heartbeat. That's and that's who we're hiring, and that's who we should be hiring. Then you have an investigator. Does he have to be a 300-pound tough guy? No. Does he have to be a police officer previously? No. He has to be an intelligent person that can see the information that he has to see in order to solve the thing that he's trying to solve. Or he has to be astute enough to see there's going to be a crime over here because look at the conditions. Look at what's happening. The neighborhood's going downhill, and the people that are there don't care. Put these things together, and so point made. Different sort of people doing different sort of work now. No preconceived ideas. Okay, to start with as being a different view of those who these people are, we have suggested that to shoot a police officer and kill him or her is an automatic behind the fence crime. What are they saying? They're saying that because they're not big, tough, able to duck, get behind cars. I mean, they know all the police officers, if they're going to be in that situation where they're shooting, they're going to have to know how to duck. They're going to have to know how to hide. They're going to have to know how to shoot back. That's what they got to do. But to shoot an officer is the most serious crime and must be treated that way because they're not the big tough anymore. See, the officer is no longer the big tough cop. All the officers are now wearing a badge that says they are us, and we do not want to be treated with anything but absolute respect. We demand absolute respect. That we do. This police officer, no matter who he is or she is representing us. This police officer, no matter who he or she is wearing a badge that says that they're us. And if you're not going to treat us, the citizens of the United States, the people that are making the laws, the people that are voting for the congressmen, the people that are paying your wages also, if you aren't giving them absolute respect, there's something wrong. And so so who are we talking about? Who is the we that we're talking about here? It's actually you and me, your neighbor down the street, your mother, your father, everyone who votes the new laws into effect. The police are us, telling the person being given a command what to do and when to do it. And it's a time that we demand that they do exactly as we ask of them. Now, isn't that a big change? Isn't it about time the above suggested change is instituted? Why would we continue to allow the stupid and very dangerous game of cops and robbers to continue? Why? What has cops and robbers got to do with preventing crime? You understand what we're saying? Get it all out. Get rid of it all. So now you understand. Number one, the police officer is going to be a different sort of person. Number two, you kill a police officer, you're behind the fence. That's it. It's the most serious crime, and it's going to be treated that way. You also notice that the big tough cop is no longer the thing that you see. What you see is a badge, and what the badge says is that they are representing us. And who are us? Your neighbor, your father, your best friend, your girlfriend, your wife. We don't want to have some person in our face yapping, calling us all kinds of rotten names and stuff. We don't want that. And that's the game that we're dealing with when we're talking about the dangerous game of cops and robbers. So the greedy overchargers can reach into your pocket and take your money while you're standing there and watching the game unfold. That's bullshit. But that's what's happening. To give some sick people the right to push around, beat, and even kill American citizens just because they can. Is that what we want? Because there's no other choice? We have given you another choice, just like the citizens of Dodge City were given another choice. If you accept that choice, you'll put the gunslingers permanently out of business. If you choose our choice, the crime drops 80%. So the policeman and woman is you and me, and just what are we going to allow now that we understand that change? First and foremost, the officer has to be respected, and they got to get the respect that they now deserve. Now, why do they now deserve? Because they're different people now. Whatever the police did, we're moving in the direction of military police. We got to put an end to that. We got to get. You understand that the military, you have to do what you're told. Okay, so if you change the police from protecting your rights and protecting the citizens to doing what they're told, guess what? What do you suppose somebody's going to tell them to do? So to get the respect that we have to give the police at this point in time, the new police, we have to do things differently. We are suggesting we make what is called a legal police team. What is that? It's made up of three man and woman, any combination, 3 men, 3 women, or any combination team that has available to them the equipment that is up to date and the best equipment available right now. They have to have whatever technology is up to date and reasonable to be kept, and it has to be kept up to date. We might repeat that. Whatever technology is up to date and reasonable, with the money being available again and out of the hands of the greedy overchargers, we can afford to make this possible. That is or will be a major change. You think it won't be? If there's all of a sudden a different kind of taser that it literally puts you down instantly the second you get hit by it, we have it. No, the officer has it, and the officer is we. I don't care what it is. If we can shut the person down without killing them, without you understand what we're saying. We don't want to kill a person who's mentally ill. We want to stop him. We hope that we get to him before he does anything wrong. Crime prevention. Okay, so now we said there's always has to be in this new setup for the police. There's a requirement that we have to have. The first one you just saw. That team has all the up-to-date equipment, and the equipment revolves around stopping a person, giving a person a command, and killing a person if that's what you have to do. Stopping, putting a person down is basically what it is that we're saying. Being able to immobile, put down, controlled. So we know that that's the thing. Then why are what are we up for a team? We also suggested that there always be at least 3 officers present, no matter the task at hand. That means walking, riding horses, 2-wheel vehicles, or in an automobile. You have 3-man team. Well, first 2 officers are a team, and they train together and do the things that we figure a police officer has to do. They will have each other's back at all times. So now we have 2 officers who are armed and giving commands in any situation. The 3rd officer is also armed in the same manner, but he or she has a state-of-the-art ability and equipment to record the situation of any police action. Now, if you think that isn't different, think again. And there's a reason for it. Think about it now. No matter what's going on, that police officer is an expert at recording the situation, any action. And what does that mean? That means that he isn't recording the sidewalk when somebody shoots. That's basically what it means. That person will show in video of some form exactly what the police officer did, exactly what the person involved in the activity did, and why. Because the crime prevention group has to see that video to find out what they did, and did they do everything right. 1 or 2 police at the scene does not constitute a legal police team, and you will see a difference that small fact makes pretty soon. So now we are really focusing on the fact that there are 3 officers, and 1 of them is recording everything that's going on. The other 2, you don't have a single officer walking up to a pulled over car. You can't see what the driver or the passengers are doing. He's in a situation where he could be dead in a minute or less. His or her duty is to record the action. The recording person is back far enough to record the action or event as they arrive at any police activity, including stopping a car for speeding. That requires that the 3rd officer's highest priority is to record unless someone's life is in immediate danger. He or she will record any police event with no excuse of any kind. Equipment failure, recording the wrong thing, loss of what was recorded, or any situation that keeps the crime prevention group, the People's Trust News investigators, and the People's Trust court system, or you, from being able to access by video all the facts of the police event. And if you can't do that, they'll punish. They'll punish the person by firing them. They'll punish the person by forcing them 1 month off and a lot of training. That punish will be moved to the officer above if the field officer above the field officer on the 2nd offense. Why? Because if your boss allows, doesn't, your boss is there to make darn sure that you're a police officer doing what you're supposed to be doing. If he doesn't do that or she doesn't do that, then she's up for punishment. That punishment will be moved to the officer above the field officer on the second offense. It'll be moved to the next higher officer in charge, and will continue to go on up if it, can be an entire police unit if that's what it has to. Get rid of them all, fire them all, discipline them all. With the increase in power for the police, we must have an increase in protection for us, and that protection is above the power of even the top police official. What did they say? They said, well, number one, the increase in power. We talked about it, we know about it, but what we're saying is, you pull a car over, there's not one officer going to the door, there's two officers, and they're not both going to the door. One of them is kind of on the other side of the car. Anything goes on that isn't right, he's able to pull his weapon and deal with it. In the meantime, the third officer is number one, required to record it, but number two, might have to, take his gun out and do something too. But you've always got three police officers, never one. Why on earth would you have one police officer in any situation that requires a police officer? I mean, somebody, you're thinking jaywalking. We're thinking your head's blown off because the guy's got a 44 mag, in his lap, and he used it. So we're probably both thinking two different things. We have to have the three-man police unit. We have to have one recording so that if anybody says, well, I didn't, you hear that all the time. Well, I didn't do that. Well, you did do it. It shows right on the video that you did do it. Okay, you're done, and the education of the people in the schools to understand that you're going to be recorded, and you can't lie to the police officer, and you have to do exactly what you're told, or you could be in deep trouble, because it's a felony not to do exactly what you're told. So, if you had a questionable car stop for not stopping at a stop sign or something, just as an example, and the person sitting in the car and the officer comes up to the window with the other officer over to the right side of the car in the back, and the police officer says, get out of the car. Well, you know what happens when you tell anybody, I don't have to get out of the car, I don't know, what do you know? And you have to understand how the thing works. Because you're being recorded, the police officer says, look, you have to do exactly what I say, or you have committed a felony. And if you commit a felony, we can kill you. So get out of the car. Now, that's new and that's different, and that will be understood by the citizens of the United States of America, that you will do what we, the police officer represents us, we demand that you do if you're doing something that isn't right. We have the right to demand that that we can find out what it is you're doing. We can prevent the crime, so on and so forth. So you're going 80 miles an hour in a 30-mile zone, you can be pulled over, you can be told to get out of the car, you can put handcuffs on the person, and the person better do exactly what he's told and say nothing if he's told to say nothing. If he does say something and the officer gives him that understanding that he's committing a felony, the third officer is recording it, he's screwed. He's done. I mean, it's like if you have somebody who's so unintelligent, if you will, that he's actually going to talk back to a police officer, and the police officer has told him that he's committing a felony if he does, then that person has no right to be out on the street or driving a car or doing anything without somebody, making sure that he's in control, if you will. In other words, if you can't qualify to go out into society, don't. Got the picture. We're supposed to have the maximum amount of freedom, but you cannot affect somebody else's freedom. So, that being the case, you have to be able to get into society in a social situation and act appropriately. Okay, the third officer will be our emissary or our protector of our rights. What do we mean there? That means that the third officer will not be in contact with any police officer in any way. What does that mean? I forgot. What does that mean? That means he's protecting you because he's recording. Now, if a police officer starts pushing you around and he doesn't have the right, that's recorded. And he's going to lose his job if he doesn't enter the court system and go to prison. He is going to be stopped. So all of a sudden they have tremendous power, but then on the other hand, they don't have to bow to the fact that they might get killed. They have to bow to the fact that they might get fired. The third officer is our emissary. It's the protector of our rights. Now, when you understand that, that means the third officer will not be in contact with any police officer in any way save to record the event or back up the other two officers if that's needed. The third officer will be under the control of the prevention group and will be housed in a separate building away from the police. What did that come up? That third officer will be trained with the other two officers, but not in the same group. They're trained the same way. Trained how to use a gun, trained how to use any way to stop them, but not with the other officers. They remain separate except when on duty. In brackets, they say the intent is there's to be no camaraderie between them. The intent is that third officer be there to see there's no abuse of the tremendous power we have given the police, and we're going to make sure that abuse is not happening. And that is why he or she is recording. That is why he or she is not ever going to be with, in any way, the other two officers. They're going to be in the same car. They better not be talking. They better not be bonding, if you will. The recording officer is to be separated in the back seat. You understand the concept. No camaraderie, no bonding. We're not going to have, those two officers are my friends, so I accidentally stubbed my toe and the camera didn't record him doing something abusive. No, sorry, that's not going to fly. Number one, you're not going to have that friend, and number two, the crime prevention group is going to fire you in a minute. However, there again, the third officer will also be there to defend the actions of the other two officers if they have performed the duty as commanded and properly. See, now, you see, we don't want the abuse of a wrong type recorder, and those people will be watched, and they'll be highly trained, and they'll have excellent equipment. We have given the officer the power to control a situation as we've asked them to do. If they are going to be asked to protect us, then they have to be given the tools. On the other hand, those same officers will be fired or even jailed if they abuse their power. Now, do you hear what they said? Fired or even jailed if they abuse that power. And the group that is in charge of them is going to be watching that situation closely, and you have jail terms and you have firing, probably a few before the officers begin to realize that, oh boy, we're being recorded and there's no way to squirm our way out of it. If you're bound and determined you're going to abuse the power, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be fired or go to jail. There will be complaints all over the place for a while as unqualified officers are removed from service, and we get the quality we need, but then we have also given them great power to do their job as it should be done. We set it up so that they're protected. Some idiot that's got a gun in his car pulls that gun with the officer to his right and behind him. I don't think so. I don't think most people are willing to die just to die. If they think they can get away with it, fine. But if you got 2 officers instead of 1 or 3 officers, you're in trouble.